Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. What I got for you first here from Radar Online. Vladimir Putin sends 10 nuclear aircraft to Belarus as war in Ukraine continues to escalate.
Vladimir Putin ordered to move 10 aircrafts believed to be capable of carrying nuclear weapons to Belarus as the tensions between Russia and Ukraine begin to reach their boiling point. European news agency TASS believes that the move is meant to stoke fears of an actual nuclear strike as Russia continues to face roadblock after roadblock in their attempts to capture Kiev. Putin signed a deal to station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. We agreed with Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko that we would place tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus without violating the non-proliferation regime, the warring leader told the press. He claimed the move wouldn't violate previous non-proliferation nuclear agreements due to the United States also having similar weapons stationed in various European nations. In August of last year, Lukashenko claimed that his country's Su-24 military planes were refitted, enabling them to carry nuclear weapons. Although no action has been made using such weapons as of yet, Putin hasn't been shy about touting Russia's capability of bringing this entire war to an end with just a press of a button.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. Next one will be from the Telegraph. China may yet persuade Putin to end his war in Ukraine. Right, like that's going to happen.
Sponsored content.
No, that's not what I want.
The Chinese president displayed solidarity with Vladimir Putin during his two-day visit, stressing Beijing's impartial position on the war in Ukraine. There are changes now that haven't happened in 100 years, and when we are together, we drive those changes, she remarked to his Russian counterpart. Take care of yourself, dear friend. Global commerce is in the midst of a long-term recalibration. The center of economic gravity has been shifting east and south for some time, away from Western Europe and the Anglosphere. The US remains the biggest economy on Earth in dollar terms, chalking up GDP of just over $25 trillion, £20.5 trillion, in 2022, around a quarter of the global total and 8 times the UK. But China is gaining fast. Back in 1980, the economy of the People's Republic was just 1/10 that of the US. But at $18.8 trillion, the Chinese economy is now over 3/4 that of America. Using what economists call purchasing power parity, allowing for exchange rate variations, Chinese GDP was actually worth £30.1 trillion last year according to the International Monetary Fund, having overtaken the US on this measure in 2015.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box. What I got next for you here is from the Telegraph.
Sponsored content.
Oh, that's not what I want.
Content. More from
Not what I want.
the Telegraph. Benjamin Netanyahu faces revolt from his own party against judicial reforms. I thought Michael O'Leary was a self-promoting narcissist. But now I understand him. If men got cancer from their contraception, there would be a solution. Solution by now. Visit the Telegraph. Those in the Matsu Islands have been cut off from the outside world after 2 submarine internet cables were severed by Chinese ships last month. All of a sudden, messages stopped sending, online videos weren't loading, bank transfers failed, and even credit cards couldn't be swiped. Calls cut off midway. It's pretty annoying, grumbled Lin Xingyu, 80. But it's more of a problem for the young people glued to their mobiles. That's why all of them ran off to the main, Taiwan island, he laughed. The only ones left are old fogies like me and the soldiers stationed here. The internet outage has highlighted a critical security vulnerability, that Taiwan can't safeguard its communications in the event of a war with China. The incident in Matsu actually serves as a warning sign for Taiwan to better prepare its backup plans, said Li Wan, head of the Matsu chapter of the country's leading Democratic Progressive Party. What would we do if Taiwan's 14 international sea cables were damaged? Cables in Matsu have been snapped 27 times in the past 5 years, often by Chinese fishing vessels dropping anchors and dragging fishing nets. But this is the longest internet blackout residents have experienced, as repair ships won't arrive until the end of April to fix the cables, more than 300 miles long and about the width of a garden hose.
This article here was about Taiwan resident flee remote island at China's severest internet sea cables. You can read the rest of that in my description box. There's another one from the Motley Fool. Is Joe Biden pushing a backdoor to cut Social Security benefits?
President Joe Biden was adamant in his State of the Union address last month about his support of Social Security. He declared emphatically, "If anyone tries to cut Social Security, I will stop them." The president also criticized some Republicans who he said want to allow the U.S. to default on its debt if major changes, including benefits cuts, aren't on the table. But is Biden actually pushing a backdoor cut to Social Security benefits of his own? The consequences of doing nothing. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana didn't accuse President Biden of wanting to cut Social Security benefits in a recent Senate Finance Committee hearing. However, the Louisiana Republican warned about the stark consequences of doing nothing. Cassidy grilled Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen about the president's proposed budget for fiscal year 2024. He noted that when Social Security goes broke in 9 years, there will be a 24% benefit reduction for recipients. Cassidy then criticized Biden's budget, stating, "In the $4.5 trillion of taxes the president has proposed, are any of those taxes going to shore up Social Security?" The answer is, of the $4.5 trillion in taxes he has proposed, not a dime is going to shore up Social Security.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. This is from India Today. Attacks on Iran-linked bases in Syria will draw swift response, spokesperson says.
Strikes on Iranian-linked bases in Syria would draw a quick response, an Iranian security spokesperson said on Saturday, after the reported death of 19 people in one of the deadliest exchanges between the U.S. and Iranian-aligned forces in years. Any pretext to attack bases created at the request of the Syrian government to deal with terrorism and Islamic State elements in this country will be met with an immediate counter-response. Kievan Khosravi, spokesperson for Iran's top security body, was quoted as saying by Iranian state media. Iran says its forces and allied fighters are in Syria at the request of Damascus and sees U.S. forces there as occupiers. The death toll in U.S. airstrikes on pro-Iran installations in eastern Syria has risen to 19 fighters, a Syrian war monitoring group said on Saturday. The U.S. carried out strikes in eastern Syria in response to a drone attack on Thursday that left one American contractor dead and another wounded along with 5 U.S. troops. Washington said the attack was of Iranian origin. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said air raids killed 3 Syrian troops, 11 Syrian fighters in pro-government militias and 5 non-Syrian fighters who were aligned with the government.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. And got another one here for you. This is from Alcazar. Russia's nuclear arsenal. How big is it and who controls it?
President Vladimir Putin says Russia has struck a deal with neighboring Belarus to station tactical nuclear weapons on its territory. He said on Saturday that the agreement will not violate non-proliferation agreements. The following are details of Russia's nuclear arsenal, how big it is, and who commands it. Nuclear superpower. Russia, which inherited the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons, has the world's biggest stockpile of nuclear warheads. Putin controls about 5,977 such warheads as of 2022, compared with 5,428 controlled by United States President Joe Biden, according to the Federation of American Scientists. An estimated 1,500 of those warheads are retired, but probably still intact. 2,889 are in reserve and 1,588 are deployed strategic warheads. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists said 812 are deployed on land-based ballistic missiles, 576 on submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and about 200 at heavy bomber bases. The U.S. has 1,644 deployed strategic nuclear warheads. China has a total of 350 warheads, France 290 and the United Kingdom 225, according to the Federation of American Scientists. Such numbers mean that both Moscow and Washington could destroy the world many times over. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union's arsenal reached a peak of about 40,000 nuclear warheads, while the U.S. peak was about 30,000 warheads.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box. Here's one from Jerusalem Post. Voices from the Arab press. Accidental U.S.-Russia confrontation possible.
Accidental Washington-Moscow confrontation possible. Al-Ittihad, United Arab Emirates, March 18. Relations between Washington and Moscow are intensifying, especially after the downing of an American drone in the Black Sea. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin reaffirmed that the U.S. will continue conducting reconnaissance flights in the region, wherever international law permits. Moscow, in response, has called on the U.S. to stay away from its borders. This marks the first direct confrontation between the two forces since Russia's military operations in Ukraine, and signals all of the increased tensions that will be reflected in both bilateral and multilateral relations. The American aircraft, an MQ-9 Reaper, was unarmed and flying in international airspace on a routine monitoring mission. Russian warships and submarines are abundant in the Black Sea. Meanwhile, the UK is planning to double the number of troops stationed in Estonia as part of its NATO mission. This will likely lead to a variety of consequences, following Germany's decision to send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine, paralleled by similar moves from the US and the UK. French President Emmanuel Macron has stated that any decisions regarding security arrangements must take into account Russia's security concerns. Critics have continued to accuse France and Germany of failing to offer Ukraine clear support, which has damaged their credibility in the eyes of Eastern European leaders. As a result, Poland and the Baltic countries are looking to the US for real guarantees of security.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box. Trying to get you as much news as I can without going too long with it. This one here, biggest winners and losers from the Fed's interest rate hike.
The Federal Reserve announced that it's raising interest rates by 0.25 percentage points, following its March 21st to 22nd meeting, bumping the federal funds rate to a target range of 4.75 to 5%. With the move, the Federal Reserve marked the 9th straight meeting that it raised rates in an effort to rapidly reduce liquidity to the financial markets and tamp down high inflation. The Fed's decision comes as inflation hit 6% year-over-year in February, still among the highest levels in decades, though falling from its 2022 highs. With the Fed continuing to hit the brakes on an overheated economy, the main question for many market watchers is how much further will the Fed raise rates and how deep an ensuing recession could become. The fight against inflation continues, says Greg McBride, CFA, Bankrate chief financial analyst. The recent turmoil in banking subsided, and there was enough normalcy in financial markets that the Fed was comfortable with a 9th interest rate hike.
Yeah, it's not their money they're playing with, it's ours. Okay, I'm going to play the rest of this here. Oh, too far down.
Besides raising interest rates, the Fed has also been selling off huge chunks of its bond portfolio. As the Fed runs off its balance sheet, the move helps drain liquidity from the financial system in an effort to slow inflation. At about 3.6%, the 10-year Treasury note is now well below its 52-week high of 4.33%, which was hit in October 2022. The slide in that yield, even as the Fed continues to raise short-term rates, suggests that investors are preparing for a recession in the near term, as well as ongoing anxiety about the financial system's stability in light of recent bank failures. As the Fed continues to raise rates, here are the winners and losers from its latest decision. 1. Savings accounts and CDs. Rising interest rates mean that many banks will offer rising returns on their savings and money market accounts, but the speed with which they do this will vary from bank to bank. A Fed rate hike keeps the upward trajectory on savings accounts, money market accounts, and CD rates intact, says McBride. Shop around to get the best returns, as the largest banks often have among the lowest payouts. Savers looking to maximize their earnings from interest should consider turning to online banks or the top credit unions, where rates are typically much better than those offered by traditional banks. When it comes to CDs, account holders who recently locked in rates will retain those yields for the term of the CD, unless they're willing to pay a penalty to break it. 2. Mortgages. While the federal funds rate doesn't really impact mortgage rates, which depend largely on the 10-year Treasury yield, they're often moving the same way for similar reasons. With the 10-year Treasury yield falling from its highest levels in recent months, as the market prices in the potential for a recession, mortgage rates have sharply fallen alongside them. Mortgage rates are still above 6.5%, and with inflation at 6%, there isn't a whole lot to bring them lower until inflation comes down or the economy slows materially, says McBride. Mortgage rates remain well above where they were a year ago, and this, following the rapid rise in housing prices over the past couple of years, has created a double whammy for potential homebuyers. Home prices are more expensive and the financing is pricier, resulting in a slowdown in the housing market. The cost of a home equity line of credit, HELOC, will be ratcheting higher since HELOCs adjust relatively quickly to changes in the federal funds rate. HELOCs are typically linked to the prime rate, the interest rate that banks charge their best customers. Those with outstanding balances on their HELOC will see rates tick up. As rates rise, it can be a good time to comparison shop for the best rate. 3. Stock and bond investors. The stock market soared as long as the Fed kept rates at near zero for an extended period of time. Low rates were beneficial for stocks, making them look like a more attractive investment in comparison to rates on bonds and fixed income investments such as CDs. Since late 2021, investors have been pricing in rate increases, and the S&P 500 spent most of 2022 in a deep slump. Now with the 10-year Treasury moderating, investors have sent stocks higher in the last few months because they think they can see the end of rate hikes. Still, higher rates should slow growth and therefore corporate earnings, if not create an outright recession. The Fed's message to investors continues to be the beatings will continue until inflation improves. Higher rates and reduced earnings estimates mean additional volatility in the stock and bond markets, says McBride. For most of 2022, higher rates hit bonds hard, pushing their prices down. The longer the bond's maturity, the more it's been stung by rising rates. However, now with investors starting to spot an end to the Fed's aggressive tightening, the bond market has been finding a floor on prices. But with the economy yet to endure an expected recession, stocks may still be in for a choppy ride. Now short-term rates are much more attractive if you're looking for a safe place to stash money while waiting for things to cool off. 4. Borrowers. If you're an existing borrower and don't need to tap the market for money, say, you locked in a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage in 2021 or 2022, you're in good shape. But everyone else who's looking to access new credit is getting squeezed, whether that's credit cards, more later, student loans, personal loans, auto loans, or whatever else you might need to borrow for. The average interest rate on personal loans is 10.81% as of March 15, according to a Bankrate study. However, borrowers with better credit may still be able to access a lower rate. In 2021, the average rate was just 9.38% when the Fed funds rate was near zero. Besides these new borrowers, however, anyone with any kind of floating rate debt is also feeling the sting of higher rates. For example, if you took out an adjustable rate mortgage years ago, that loan may be resetting at higher rates and it may be pushing up your monthly payment. 5. Credit cards. Many variable rate credit cards change the rate they charge customers based on the prime rate, which is closely related to the federal funds rate. The Fed's decision means that interest on variable rate cards will move higher now. Rates on cards are already at multi-decade highs and are still rising. Credit card rates will mimic this and any further Fed rate hikes, with credit card rates that are already at a record high poised to move still higher, says McBride. Prioritize repaying high-cost credit card debt and utilize a 0% or other low-rate balance transfer offer to give those debt repayment efforts a tailwind. Rates on credit cards are largely a non-issue if you're not running a balance. 6. The U.S. federal government. With the national debt nearing $32 trillion, rising rates will raise the costs of the federal government as it rolls over debt and borrows new money. Of course, the government has benefited for decades from a secular decline in interest rates. While rates might rise cyclically during an economic boom, they've been moving steadily lower long term. As long as inflation remains higher than interest rates, the government is slowly taking advantage of inflation, paying down prior debts with today's less valuable dollars. That's an attractive prospect for the government, of course, but not for those who buy its debt. Bottom line. Inflation has been running hot over the last couple of years, and the Fed is aggressively raising interest rates to combat it. So plan carefully for how to take advantage, for example, by being more discriminating when it comes to shopping for rates on your savings accounts or CDs. One option for those looking for some protection against inflation is the Series I bond, which offers a solid annual interest rate of 6.89% on bonds purchased through April 2023. Written by James Royal, Principal Writer, Investing and Wealth Management.
Okay, for my last one here is from Commando. These Chinese-owned apps are dangerous. Get them off your phone. See what it says here.
TikTok has been facing significant backlash worldwide for collecting data on its users. It's already been banned from government and military devices in the US, and there's been a push for its Chinese owners to sell their shares in the company. Here's what's happening so far. Another Chinese app landed in hot water this week, but for different reasons. Google went so far as to remove the app from its store. Here's what you need to know. China's Amazon is bad news. Pinduoduo, a Chinese e-commerce app, has been pulled from Google Play Store over security concerns. While Google Play is unavailable in China, a spokesperson told TechCrunch that off-play versions of this app that have been found to contain malware have been enforced on via Google Play Protect. Google advises that anyone with the Pinduoduo app uninstall it, and we echo that sentiment. Pinduoduo is not the only Chinese e-commerce app to worry about, however. Temu, 2. A doorbell camera for $12? Memory cards for $3? Sounds too good to be true, right? That's because it is. You'll find prices like this on an e-commerce app called Temu. Have you heard of it? It's the most downloaded shopping app in the US, beating out Walmart and Target. It's been downloaded 24 million times since launching in September. Temu says it keeps prices low by allowing Chinese vendors to sell directly to consumers. And that makes sense when you consider this. Though the company is based in the US, Temu is owned by PDD Holdings, which also owns Pinduoduo. There it is. Dirt cheap electronics should raise alarm bells, but if you need more proof, check out its abysmal rating and customer reviews at the Better Business Bureau. As Kim said, you get what you pay for. Do this now. If Pinduoduo is installed on your phone, you should delete it immediately. Though there hasn't been news about security concerns for the iOS app, iPhone users should take the same precautions. Delete apps from your Android phone. Long press an app, then tap App Info Uninstall. Go to Settings, Apps and Notifications to see a list of your apps and delete them the same way. Or open the Google Play Store app and navigate to menu My Apps and Games. Tap on the app and hit Uninstall. Note, Samsung and OnePlus phones have an uninstall option under the App Shortcuts menu. Delete apps from your iPhone. Touch and hold an app, then tap Remove App, Delete. Or use the App Library, introduced in iOS 14, to get a curated list of your apps grouped by category. Swipe past the last page of your home screen to access it. Tap and hold the app, then select Delete App, Delete. Related, why yesterday's TikTok hearing was a disservice to all Americans. Stay protected. While official app stores are more secure than third-party options, they are not infallible. Bad apps occasionally slip through the vetting process of the Google Play Store or Apple's App Store. One of the best ways to ensure you don't download malicious apps is to utilize Google Play Protect. It is enabled by default, but only if you have a Play Protect certified device. Here's how to check your device. Open the Google Play Store app. At the top right, tap the profile icon. Tap Settings. Under About, check if your device is Play Protect certified. Play Protect runs a safety check on apps from the Google Play Store. It inspects them for potentially harmful apps from other sources, which could contain malware. When Google finds a harmful app on your phone, it warns you and gives you the option to remove it or deactivate functionality. Of course, you can turn the setting off, but that isn't a wise move. If Google Play Protect somehow got turned off, here's how to turn it back on. Open the Google Play Store app. At the top right, tap the profile icon. Tap Play Protect Settings. Turn Scan Apps with Play Protect on. You should also have antivirus software updated and running on all your devices. We recommend our sponsor, Total AV. Get an annual plan with Total AV for only $19 at protectwithkim.com. That's over 85% off the regular price.
Okay, that's all I got for you today. I hope I gave you some information, some good information, and I hope you enjoyed the news. And thanks for watching. Until next time, see you later.